According to the U.S. Census Bureau in 2023, over 202,000 Californians relocated to Texas, making it the single largest source of new residents for the Lone Star State. Why are so many Californians moving to Texas? If you're among those considering forsaking the Golden State for the Lone Star State, here are some reasons for moving from California to Texas. 5. Taxes aren't so taxing in Texas. So why are people moving to Texas exactly? Economics is one of the biggest reasons, particularly when we're talking about exiles from the Golden State. Californians pay as much as 13.3% in state income tax, and depending on local rates between 7.25% and 10.75% in sales tax. In Texas, there is no state income tax, and sales tax ranges from 6.25% to 8.25%. Surprisingly, the effective property tax rate in Texas is higher than in California at 1.68% versus 0.75%. In business too, Texas has an edge. California's corporate income tax rate is 8.84%, and Texas does not have one, but the state does levy a franchise tax in some cases. Still, it's less than 1%. These numbers bode well for entrepreneurs wanting to start a business. 4. California's homelessness is more prevalent than in Texas. California holds the unfortunate distinction of having the nation's highest homeless population. Estimates suggest over 391,399 people experience homelessness in the state, constituting a staggering 31.89% of the national total. This disproportionate number can be attributed, in part, to California's severe housing crisis. The high cost of living, particularly housing, pushes many residents towards homelessness even if employed. Additionally, California struggles to provide adequate mental health resources and faces challenges related to drug use, further exacerbating the situation. Texas, on the other hand, presents a contrasting picture. Despite having a larger overall population, Texas boasts a significantly lower homeless count, estimated at around 103,200. This translates to a rate of 321 homeless individuals per 100,000 residents, a figure far lower than California's 0.46%. While the reasons for this disparity are complex, some point towards Texas's lower housing costs and a focus on rapid rehousing initiatives. It's important to note that these numbers only paint part of the picture. California has a disproportionate share of unsheltered homeless individuals, with nearly half of the national total. Conversely, Texas may have a lower overall homeless population, but the support systems available might differ. 3. The cost of living in Texas is actually livable. In addition to paying lower taxes, you're going to have a much easier time finding an affordable house in most Texas towns. California's average home value in February 2024 is around $765,200. Up 5.4% compared to a year earlier. Texas homes have an average value of only around $298,600, after a slight decrease in the past year. Of course, these values are statewide, and local home prices can vary substantially. Still, the difference between the two housing markets is clear, and you can likely expect much more home for your dollar when moving from California to Texas. The overall cost of living is relatively reasonable in Texas, as well, at about 6% less than the rest of the U.S. Not surprisingly, California clocks in at nearly 50% higher. Savings on everything from food to gas and childcare can mean thousands of dollars in your pocket each year when moving to Texas from California. 2. There are growing employment opportunities. Texas is a hotspot in more ways than one for frequent flyers who travel for work. Its central location makes getting to either coast from most major Texas cities fairly easy and less expensive than from many other urban hubs. And speaking of work, the strong jobs picture may have a great deal to do with why we're seeing so many Californians moving to Texas, particularly in this ongoing era of working from home. The Lone Star State has had a record-breaking couple of years when it comes to the labor market, with 27 consecutive months of new highs in the number of people employed. Meanwhile, in California, unemployment jumped to 5.2% in January 2024. The state's highest rate in 2 years. 1. Texas traffic isn't that bad, compared to California. When it comes to traffic, California is notorious depending on the city, the road and the time of day of course. And while Texas may have its bumper-to-bumper moments, the state's drivers overall fare much better in traffic. The average Los Angeles driver spends 157 hours behind the wheel every year, compared to 113 hours for a Dallas, Fort Worth driver. And to top it off, the average price for regular gas in California is typically at least a couple of dollars higher than in Texas. There are a few cons to consider before moving to Texas from California, and a lower median household income in the Lone Star State may be one of them, at around $67,000 compared to California's nearly $85,000. Of course, the cost of pretty much everything is higher in California, including taxes, childcare, and groceries. But just prepare yourself for potential sticker shock when you see that first Texas paycheck. California also known for its gorgeous weather, especially in the northern regions of the state. Hot to hot, not too cold, with low humidity. Texas, on the other hand, tends to be very hot and humid in the summer, with an average statewide temp of 86 degrees. Of course, where you are in the state makes a difference, from cities including Houston on the muggy Gulf Coast, where spikes in the high 90 and even into the 100 aren't uncommon, to the gorgeous riverside neighborhoods of San Antonio. For many Texans, the heat is a fair trade-off for a lower cost of living. Chalk it up to the pros and cons of moving to Texas from California. Just be sure to have air conditioning, no matter where you live. Can California end its homeless crisis? California's homelessness crisis has reached critical proportions. The state's struggle with homelessness is characterized by a variety of factors, including a high cost of living, insufficient affordable housing, and systemic issues related to mental health and substance abuse. As of January 2023, California accounted for about 31% of the nation's homeless population, despite having only about 12% of the total U.S. population. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development reported over 391,399 homeless individuals in California, with nearly 70% of them living unsheltered. These figures highlight the severity of the crisis in California compared to other states. Major urban areas, such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego, face particularly high concentrations of homeless individuals, contributing to visible encampments and significant public health challenges. The primary driver of homelessness in California is the lack of affordable housing. The state's housing market is one of the most expensive in the country, with median home prices exceeding $900,000, and rental costs significantly above the national average. This high cost of living, combined with relatively stagnant wage growth for low and middle-income workers, has created an environment where many residents struggle to afford stable housing. According to the California Housing Partnership, over 1.9 million low-income households in California do not have access to affordable rental homes. Mental health and substance abuse issues further complicate the homelessness crisis. A significant proportion of the homeless population suffers from untreated mental health conditions and substance use disorders. The state's mental health system has been criticized for being underfunded and fragmented, leading to inadequate support for those in need. This lack of comprehensive mental health care contributes to chronic homelessness, as individuals with untreated conditions often cycle in and out of temporary housing, hospitals, and the streets. Addressing California's homelessness crisis requires a multifaceted approach that integrates housing, healthcare, and social services. A key component of this strategy is increasing the supply of affordable housing. The state has made efforts in this direction through initiatives like the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program and the No Place Like Home program, which funds the development of permanent supportive housing for people experiencing homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless. However, the scale of these initiatives has not yet met the demand. Housing First is another critical strategy that has shown promise. This approach prioritizes providing permanent housing to homeless individuals without preconditions such as sobriety or employment. Studies have demonstrated that Housing First can significantly reduce chronic homelessness, and improve outcomes for individuals with mental health and substance use disorders. California has adopted this model in various programs, but expanding it statewide requires substantial investment and coordination among multiple agencies. Another essential element is improving mental health and substance abuse services. The state must enhance its mental health care infrastructure to provide comprehensive, accessible services for those in need. This includes expanding outpatient treatment options, increasing the availability of supportive housing with integrated services, and improving coordination between healthcare providers, social services, and housing agencies. Funding remains a significant challenge. While California has allocated substantial resources to combat homelessness, including a $12 billion investment over 2 years announced in 2021, sustained and increased funding is necessary to address the crisis comprehensively. This funding needs to be directed not only towards building affordable housing but also towards providing wraparound services that support individuals in maintaining stable housing. In conclusion, ending California's homelessness crisis is a complex and daunting task, but it is not insurmountable. It requires a holistic, data-driven approach that addresses the immediate needs of homeless individuals while tackling the systemic issues that contribute to homelessness. By increasing the supply of affordable housing, expanding mental health and substance abuse services, implementing preventive measures, fostering collaboration, and ensuring sustained funding, California can make significant strides towards resolving its homelessness crisis. While complete eradication of homelessness may be a long-term goal, these strategies can create a pathway to significantly reduce the number of individuals living without stable housing in the state.